Good afternoon on Saturday morning. We find ourselves at the British National Party conference here in Blackpool, and we've got one or two foreign guests that have been very good to come across and attend our meeting, one of which is quite an esteemed academic, Dr. Tom Sunic, the American Freedom Party. Tom, it's absolutely fantastic to see you. We're really excited to have you across here. You've done a speech here today, and it went down very well, didn't it?
Well, I'm quite pleased to be here. I guess you understand I'm not here just because it's my invitation. I think I'm here because it's my civil duty. And what I like about this meeting is that it's not parochial, it's not just solely focused on some Britishness or some little parochial nationalism here. What I liked about Nick Griffin is that he's appealing to a larger audience all over the continental Europe. And I'm sure our people, I'm on the board of director of American Freedom Party, can certainly learn quite a bit from your past, from your experience, from your bureaucratic hassle that you're having within the European Union and so on and so forth. And I'm very happy to be here.
Yeah, well, I mean, first impressions, what our viewers are going to ask straight away is, what do you think of the BNP? What do you think of England?
Well, as far as England is concerned, I'm quite pessimistic because it has radically changed its demographic profile. And it does remind me to some extent of what happened in my country of birth, Yugoslavia. So it's being in the process of balkanization.
Yeah.
I don't want to now invoke some worst-case scenarios, but certainly the way the UK looks right now, I guess I'm pretty much worried. I'm a cultural pessimist, if I can put it that way,
well,
in a Toynbean sense.
We've used the word balkanization.
Balkanization, so exactly.
Your words dovetail with our thoughts entirely.
So it's not just the Irish question versus the English question. I guess it's sort of passé, it's dated now. What I'm afraid of is that there's millions of foreign immigrants are simply not integrated here, neither do they want to be integrated in the first place. So I guess at some point I'm not ruling out the similar Balkanesque or Yugoslav type of a scenario, even with the possible clashes, or whatever those clashes may look like. I guess I'm just talking from my own experience in ex-communist Yugoslavia, which was a mishmash country put together artificially by the Versailles Treaty architects. So again, you just can't impose diversity, you can't impose multiculturalism from above. It has to come from within, it has to come from below. And this, unfortunately, has not been the case. Those whom I blame are not the Muslims. Those whom I blame are not the people from West Indies, or for that matter, non-European immigrants. Those whom I blame are the hardcore capitalists, the rich oligarchs, the capitalists, if you wish, who in the name of some freedom market are basically importing cheap labor in order to suppress the wages of local white English workers. So basically this is a very, I hate to use the word satanic, but it's a bad policy. It's a bad policy towards blue-collar workers in the United Kingdom, and I guess it hurts mostly the English citizens, and precisely those I blame are not the non-European foreigners, but what they call it, European superclass of very rich and wealthy people.
Yeah. Well, you're pretty much in step with the way we see it as well. I've been to America many times. Obviously, I've attended American patriot meetings or whatever. We in Britain always look to America and see it as some kind of a sleeping giant of patriotism, of nationalism, white nationalism and whatever. And yet it doesn't seem to get off the ground, does it? That's the thing. It doesn't. And when we see people from America, we ask them, well, why, with so much potential in America, is there no venture into politics? Is it really that difficult with the two-party system in America to actually venture into it?
Yes. Well, we have two parties, and basically, if you look at the discourse of the Republicans, it's basically the Xerox copy of what the Democrats are saying. It has changed radically over the 30 or 40 years. So quite frankly, if you ask me, not on a linguistic or semantic level, what's the difference between the Democrats and the Republicans in the U.S., there is none. In terms of substance, there is none. So, of course, our American Freedom Party is just proposing something new. It's not a biggie party, except that we have some real top-notch academics like Kevin McDonald, Virginia Abernethy, John Vassell, our chairman, who is a prominent lawyer, a good scholar, William Johnson from L.A. So we need certainly more activists. But one thing I may disagree with you, one thing where I may be a little bit more optimistic, though, is people are starting to wake up.
Good.
They're waking up because people are getting tired of affirmative action. Affirmative action, I'm sure you're familiar with it. It's like a quota system whereby intelligent people of European descent, for a variety of reasons, are being passed over, including myself. Under normal circumstances, with all my linguistic and language skills, with all my publications, I should be now teaching at some prestigious university, or for that matter, let me be quite honest with you, being a dean at some university. But I don't fit into this category of some people, and
we can
I'm very,
with that a great deal.
absolutely, I'm very frustrated about this. But at least, at long last, a great deal of Americans are there waking up. Now, keep in mind there is, however, this geographical difference, and I think I need to point that out to your listeners and to your viewers. America is a huge country. The UK is a small country. The UK can fit into California. America still has space.
Yes, indeed.
However, there is one thing, America has, as of now, about 300 million people, and there is about 100 million people of non-European origin. So let's leave aside now this bad image of, the best cliche, white hating the non-whites. That's completely wrong. You have the blacks also, and African Americans who also on a collision course with the Hispanics. You have the Hispanics who are on the collision course with the Asian Americans. So more or less, this balkanization is doesn't just go along the line, black and white line. It goes along all different groups meshed together. And it seems to me that this government really has to do something serious, unless the country, I don't want to say explodes, but implodes rather.
Well, Tom, I want to run something past you, something that I feel myself. Very much this pushing, as you quite rightly pointed out, it isn't necessarily the individual immigrants or people in the country, it's the people bringing them in this huge genetic modification of our societies. Do you think that perhaps it is deliberately a promotion of this confrontation between various peoples, pushing them together in order to create chaos, to make societies ungovernable for the benefit of those people who are responsible in the first place?
You're asking me a very good question. In fact, I must tell you, I've always been a strict and a firm opponent against conspiracy theories. I'll tell you quite openly, and I've written quite a bit about this, and I would be happy if people could purchase my book, www.tomsunic.com. I've published books in German, English, and French dealing with this issue of balkanization and dealing with this national question and identity in post-modernity, with heavy big footnotes. So again, once again, I would encourage your people to look up my website. Look, it's just the pure dynamics of capitalism. Capitalists, regardless of what their skin color is. In fact, I'll tell you, the worst people in the United States of America are not necessarily people of non-European color, but quite frankly, white people who just want to bring in cheap labor, who can be manipulated better in order to compress the wages of white American workers, and offshore and downsize their companies and bring again their equipment and everything to Mexico, the Philippines, or to Eastern Europe, wherever. So I blame those people, and those people, if you want to find a clear-cut answer, it's just the logic of capitalism. It's the free market. And the free market, I hate to quote Marx, I now sound like a Marxist, in a sense. Ironically, I do, in a sense. Not because I'm a Marxist, but simply I'm just looking at the dynamics of capitalism. This has been going on over the last 200 years. A capitalist, similar to his alter ego, who is a leftist, he doesn't like borders. He doesn't care who buys his commodities. It can be a man from Jamaica, it can be a guy from Eastern Europe, it can be a Polish guy, it can be a gypsy. He wants to sell his commodities, and he doesn't care about his ethnic pride, his history. He just wants to have money. The religion of money is our biggest problem.
It's like
the
God,
religion of money is God. And if you want to dismiss all those big issues and all those name calling like Nazis, fascists, we first have to know who our main enemy is. Our main enemy is not the poor guy, coming from Northern Africa, or for that matter, Africa. Our main enemy is the big capitalist who doesn't care about the English nationhood, who doesn't care about his own people, who cares only about his pocket.
Yeah, true, and they can do what they do and then move away and leave us to deal with it.
I see them firsthand. They're coming now to Croatia. Now Croatia is getting a little bit more expensive, so they're moving their equipment. You've heard it, outsourcing, this famous term, outsourcing. In plain English, outsourcing means kicking in the butt your own workers, your own English workers, and hiring people who will work for half a wage from Albania or from Turkey or from Kurdistan, wherever. This is a brutal, a nasty way of So just as much as I'm an anti-communist, I'm proud of it. You know, my dad, my family spent quite some time in communist jails. My dad was a prominent Catholic lawyer in communist Yugoslavia. Long story anyway. But I'm just being an anti-communist doesn't prevent me from being an anti-capitalist, because what we are actually witnessing here is just a savage amount of what I call it the Manchester type of a capitalism, more reminiscent not of this Rhinish type of a capitalism back in the 60s and 70s, which to some extent was still controlled. But now it has broken loose because it doesn't have the opponent in communism. It actually is showing its right face. It's
fully
showing
blown,
its right face. Like
blown,
you don't have to read now the big scholars like Milton Friedman, or for that matter all those guys. What is his name, Adam Smith or whatever. You can just read Oliver Twist, or for that matter Charles Dickens can give you the full-fledged picture, very picturesque picture, very vivid picture of what actually this society is becoming. And again, it's not just the UK, it's everywhere in Europe. Our wages are being cut, our healthcare is being cut. We live in almost a barbarian society, and this phenomenon is being compounded by wild immigration, which in my view, I hate to say that, but I will say it pessimistically, may lead to a very serious civil war.
Yeah, well, that's the reality of it. I mean, let's take an oversight of what we're discussing here now. A few decades ago, you and me could talk like this, and we could share ideas from across the Atlantic, Croatia, England, whatever. We wouldn't have a very big audience, would we? It would be suppressed. Our message, what we're saying now, is being suppressed. Part of the reason that people are waking up is because they can access thoughts and ideas that we discuss over the internet. And that's probably the same in America as well, with more and more young people now rejecting traditional news outlets and actually going straight to the source and equating themselves with new ideas. And that's an exciting principle, isn't it?
Absolutely. One thing we have to work on, we have to discard or dismiss, or how can I say, just get rid of this imagery that we are some Nazis and that we are some fascists, because those words excuse me, have become totally meaningless. We just want to show that we have our own arsenal of thought, that we have our tradition, and that I'm just a normal person. I'm not advocating anything for or against. All what I'm advocating is my national pride, my European ancestry, and I would be very pleased, instead of talking politics, quite literally. I'm very much familiar with Westworth and Quincy, you know, the man, the opium eater. I read very much, and what did I read very much? Samuel Beckett I read when I was a kid. Now what I'm reading in English, I read most of the French and German literature. I'd be very happy if we could discuss those issues, because this is my culture, this is my ID. This is what we have to bring to the fore and show our audience, be it the younger one or older one, that the BNP, or for that matter any nationalist party, are not some cannibal eaters or men eaters or some wild people killing people, but that we are deeply aware of a deadly serious situation going on with this wild immigration which is causing unnecessarily this tension between the local populace and the foreign populace, which is leading to a sort of a make-believe type of a conviviality, which reminds me very much of ex-Yugoslavia. And then when this conviviality, when the economic crisis starts, people start whacking each other. That's what I fear most for the UK, or for that matter for Manchester.
Well, it's been great talking to you. We're very appreciative. Are you going to be around tomorrow so we can do another piece?
I'll be very pleased, and I'll be very pleased again to alert your people, your viewers, to my books, especially the books in French and German, and tell them again that we are not some man-eaters, we're just normal people. Being a nationalist doesn't mean to be hating somebody, quite to the contrary. I mean, I get good ties. I lived in Africa for 3 years, and in fact, I can also say that some of the worst people I've met are white people. So, again, I'm not looking at things in a black and white manner. But basically, we want to destroy this mythology, this leftist, liberal mythology that has been constantly trailing us, that has been plaguing us, depicting us as some wild beasts, as some lurking and trying to overthrow the government or something. And I'll be happy to be of some service, and especially to younger people, younger students, especially with my books in French and German and English. And thank you very much for interviewing me.
It's been our pleasure, and we'll catch up with you tomorrow.